and welcome to Hiss and Tell, a podcast about cat behavior and all things cat related. I'm your host, Kristiina Wilson, professional animal behaviorist. In today's episode, we're going to be speaking with my good friend Hannah, the person behind the CatmanJohn social media sensation account. How does Hannah spend her day now that she's a full-time social media influencer? What does Russell really mean when he uses his speech buttons? How does Hannah handle having a multi-cat household and providing enrichment for everybody? Stay tuned to find out the answers to these questions and more. To Hiss and Tell, I'm your host Kristiina, and today we're speaking to my very good friend Hannah, who is the owner of the account CatmanJohn. She has a talking cat, Russell, and she's here to talk to us today about being a social media superstar, having a famous cat, and being able to quit her job and pursue social media full-time, as well as talking to us about cats using speech buttons and what all of that means. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Welcome to this, whatever this is.
I'm fighting off cats all around me, but here he is, the man himself.
Hi, you hate me.
You smelled that one time. Your sneakers had too many smells. It was overwhelming. Oh.
So to start off, do you want to just give a little intro for people who may or may not know you? Like, who are you? What's your background? Tell us all your cats' names and ages and all of your social media handles, although I think all of yours are very well done because they're all the same, like mine.
Well, thank you. My name is Hannah. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. We have 4 kitties. Russell, who is our famous button presser, his brother Teen. They're brothers from the same litter. They're 5.5 turning 6. And then we have Winnie and Libby, who are 7.5 turning 8. Everybody's birthdays are in May. We just kind of kept it simple. But they were adopted 2 years apart. Winnie and Libby are from Florida. Russell and Teen are from New Hampshire. And I like to say that we had Winnie and Libby on purpose, and Russell and Teen were a foster fail, so we didn't really intend to have 4 cats, but I think it's worked out. Like most people, in COVID, we downloaded TikTok, and I remember seeing speech buttons being used when I was in grad school with dogs, and it was around the time that we got Russell, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so smart. I'm sure he could figure this out, and, flash forward a few years later, and we got our first pack of buttons, and I taught him how to press the button, and then ever since it's just been kind of a fun journey. So a little bit of personal background. I went to undergrad and grad school for athletic training. So for the last 10 plus years, I worked in sports medicine. And since 2020, I was working on building a side business of social media and just was able to work my way to quit that as my full-time job and pursue social media full-time, which has been really, really rewarding and wonderful. And I am very, very aware of how privileged I am, but how lucky I am. And I don't want to diminish anything because it is a lot of work. Definitely a full-time job. It was a lot of stress doing those both at the same time. But that's what we're doing now.
I remember it was so much. I mean, you work so hard and you're so good at social media that I have always been in awe of you.
Well, maybe I should introduce how we met and how we know each other.
Yeah.
Because so like I said, I downloaded TikTok in 2020, and I remember seeing Billy Speaks. She's still button pressing, and Kendra is her mom. We connected on social media, and I was obsessed with her page. Anytime she would post a video, I was like instantly watching it 700 times. I was just really interested in how to actually teach Russell. And I was at the same time trying to teach all 4 cats because I was like, I don't know, are all 4 cats supposed to do this? And then I saw your video on my TikTok, and I saw Mr. Steve with his little buttons and lots of other cats. And I remember commenting, I finally found a multi-cat button household. And, that's kind of how we connected. So it went from TikTok over to Instagram, and then, we became friends in real life. And turns out your parents live close to where I live. So, I'm very grateful that TikTok brought us together because you have been so wonderful and helpful. Especially, I always like to give this disclaimer that I'm not an animal behaviorist. I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not a cat trainer. I am just kind of going off on a whim here. Definitely not claiming that Russell can speak human English language or anything like that. But it's just been really nice to have you in my corner as well. When people come for me about the science stuff, I'm like, oh, let me bring in my expert.
Well, I'm always happy to help, and I'm so glad that you got to meet Steve and have your night of romance with him before he passed. I'm really glad that you got to have that.
Like slept in the crook of my elbow.
Yeah.
I remember you asking, like, did you get a picture? And I was so comfortable and asleep and relaxed with Mr. Steve. I was like, I didn't even think to take a picture.
Fine, it doesn't matter. But that's how he was. He really did just like make everybody super relaxed and chill. And like, I'm very glad that you got to hang out with him. What prompted you to end up with like all the cats that you have? Like, how did you guys decide to become a multi-cat household?
So I graduated from college in 2016, and I didn't immediately have an athletic training job after that. So I was just nannying for a little bit, and then I ended up working as a pharmacy tech while I was studying for my boards exam. And Dylan was working evenings, like an hour away. So he would go to work at like 12 and then not get home until 1 a.m. And so I was 21, and I just graduated college, and we're like living on our own. And I was just like lonely.
Yeah.
So I was like, Dill, I think we really need to look into adopting a pet. And so I was like, I don't think we should get just one cat. I think we should get a pair. You know, it was just something I've always wanted since I was little. So we went on the different like adoption shelters that they had in the New Hampshire area, and we came across a picture of Winnie, and her name was Winnie, and we were like, oh my gosh, like Winnipesaukee, Winnie, this all makes sense, of course. So we got up like early the next morning, and we drove, and there was Winnie and Libby in the in the little glass cage, and they had a sister named Foxy.
Oh.
I felt like we just needed more life. So, we went and we met Winnie and Libby, and within 5 minutes, Libby was like belly up. Dylan was petting her. They were like this big. They were so little as kittens. And Winnie just hid in the box and hissed. And, that was kind of a turning point for us, because I looked at Dylan and I was like, I think that we can give Winnie the life that she needs, because if she's like scared and hissing, like we can be patient with her. I don't think a family with young kids would be a good fit for her, whatever. So I was like feeling really strongly that Winnie belonged in our family. And so of course, then we adopted them, and they've been in our family since. Winnie has definitely burned through like 3 of her 9 lives, but she's still going. So that's good. And then we moved to Florida so that I could start my grad program. And we went to Petco to get probably food and litter, and in the front case, there were, kittens on display. And I think Dylan had that moment with Russell that I had with Winnie, where Dylan was like, Russell belongs in our family. Like, I don't know what's like, making this. So we couldn't leave until I called and fostered. And then of course, the rest is history. They're still with us. So I feel extremely lucky to have all 4 cats. They all get along really well. And I think they're just like a really nice family.
I love that. And I know the answer to this question, but for all of our listeners, I keep wanting to say viewers, but it's really listeners. How do you provide enrichment and stimulation for all of them, since you do have a multi-cat household?
I feel like this is like the number one goal of mine, is I don't ever want my cats to be bored. So I feel like I am constantly scouring, videos or articles for like different types of cat enrichment. It can be seasonally themed. In the fall, we went and we bought a bunch of leaves and put them all in the balcony with catnip and treats. We just got this new toy that hangs in the doorway that all the cats love. And I think that's the other part of it too that I've learned along the way, is it doesn't necessarily need to be buying a bunch of toys, buying expensive toys. You can reuse your toys in different ways. You throw a sheet over it and all of a sudden it's brand new. Yes. Ice cubes are also something that just come out of my dispense out of my refrigerator for Russell. So for those working on a budget, I tend to try to post things that are inclusive of all types of budgets, whether it's toys that are completely free or toys that are, purchasable.
No, I totally agree. I've noticed that things that you purchase, often cats ignore. Things that you find outside, or that just, like a box with paper, are their favorite things, right? So I love giving an activity box, which I know you and I have discussed a little bit, which is just a cardboard box filled with paper and maybe some leaves or a stick, or just different things that are different olfactory stimulation that they're not used to in the house, with some catnip and then some treats and maybe a couple toys. And you just switch that out every few days, because like you said, you need to rotate things because cats really get bored of stuff. And that is such great enrichment that like I like to do in our house, and our cats are always so excited about like what's going in the box now. And they'll often even like Uncle Dad sleeps in there, so it's they love an enrichment box. So I think
Definitely.
that's great that you're doing that kind of stuff. And how do you handle the litter box for the 4 cats?
So let me speak on my experience in Florida, because we really had
Yes.
a scoopable litter box when we were in
Yes.
Florida. We actually ended up buying furniture that housed litter boxes because we had 4 cats, and if you have 4 cats, you need like 8 litter boxes, but we didn't have the
Right.
space for that. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. So every single day we rotated. I had a piece of paper that I flipped that was like Hannah's day, Dylan's day, and we would scoop the litter boxes, and it was just so much, and it was so hard to keep up with. We ended up moving to Virginia and having a bigger space. And right when we moved here, Dylan was like, I think I want to buy this robot litter box. And it was at the time, $350, whatever. And I laughed in his face, and I was like, you buy it then. It's your money, da da da. Yeah, best investment ever. We did the payment plan when we first bought it, and I just can't recommend it highly enough. I totally understand that there's certain cats that are not going to be happy using that type of litter box, but we have 2 litter robot 4s, and we will never go back to scooping ever.
No, I totally agree. We have 11 cats, right? So we have four litter robots, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 regular boxes.
Okay.
And so we do have to still do quite a lot of scooping, but the litter robots are such a lifesaver. And, as I showed in like old videos on Steve's channel, several years ago when we still lived in a condo in the city, we only had boxes. And Allie, my wife, actually really hurt her back and had to go to PT from scooping the boxes so much because they were like under the stairs in our apartment. And so she just was like hunched over multiple times a day scooping the boxes, and it was just such we just both hated it. It was horrible. And the litter robots have been so helpful. I keep meaning to run my litter box study again in the house now that we have more space and just different toileting areas to see if the stats have changed at all. Because when I did run that study, it showed that all the cats used the litter robots, but they still preferred the regular boxes, just because they're because they're a little bit bigger, the cats have a little more room to turn around, and the litter can be a little bit deeper. But everyone still used the robot, so I don't think it's a reason to not get them, unless, you have like an old arthritic cat that can't climb in, or like a super giant cat who's like, just it's not big enough,
fit.
right? But I am curious to see what would happen if I ran it again. So maybe if I get bored enough, I'll do that and annoy Allie again with me watching cats go to the bathroom every night and like putting it in a spreadsheet and doing that. But
I mean, no, that would be really interesting. I actually just had a friend who, she has 3 cats, had 2 cats for a really long time and just added a 3rd cat. And she had 1 litter robot, and her kitten, he's a boy, he's orange, he's very handsome. His name's Merlin, and Merlin was going to the bathroom, peeing outside of the litter robot, and she was like, what do I do? She actually bought a 2nd litter robot and has no issues. So, obviously some cats just prefer to go in different boxes, poop, pee, and...
They do. That was one interesting thing, like anecdotal thing that I found when I ran the study the first time, because I was, had video pointing at all of the toileting areas, was that... And what I've noticed even now, because I still every night I have cameras pointing at all the bathrooms just so that I can look every night to see if anybody, they're all going appropriately. Nobody's blocked, because we have a few cats who do have tendency to get urinary blockages, so I want to make sure that everyone's going to the bathroom. Sometimes nobody's straining, whatever. So that's my fun nighttime routine when I'm in bed, is going through the app on my phone and just making sure everyone's gone to the bathroom. But now I've lost my train of thought.
Don't even worry about it.
Yes. No. This is for age 46. One thing I have really noticed, and that the study showed, is that the cats will often go into one box, go to the bathroom, and then come out and go to a different box and go to the bathroom, right? So I think in one box, coming out and defecating in another box, and then leave. And it's a behavior that most of the cats have. So I think they're just I'm just going to go to the bathroom and get it all done, and then not have to come back to this area for a while. So that makes sense to me, even with the litter robots, because I see it in my own house that they'll go to a litter robot, do something, come out, go to a regular box, do something else, or even go to another litter robot.
Totally.
So moving on to your social media use, what inspired you to start sharing Russell's adventures on social media?
Say, I would take it back to undergrad, and when I was an undergrad, I was hiking all the time. I had a goal to hike all of the 4,000-foot mountains in New Hampshire. We're over halfway, so we're going to, take on that as our life goes on. And I was just posting a lot on social media. I was connecting with different accounts in New Hampshire. We did an ad for Eastern Mountain Sports, and my personal Instagram was just growing and growing and growing. And I just found it to be really easy. I was like, I like this. I know what people are looking for. I just feel like I was kind of falling into a hiking niche with photography in that way that I was just really enjoying. And then I went to grad school and I just was too busy. It was just not, I just did not have enough time to keep up with like my personal Instagram in that way and my master's degree in working. So truthfully, I felt like it all kind of fell into place. Like when COVID rolled around and TikTok started, we were like, let's just be a cat-centered page. So I think the first video that we posted on TikTok, if I can remember correctly, is just an intro video where it's like, this is Russell, this is Libby, this is Teen, this is Winnie. And then the second video that we posted went viral. And it was a video of Teen catching little, like, I call them puffies, but little pom-poms.
Oh, yeah, the puppies, yeah.
When I was throwing for him, and I was like, oh, okay, I think we could do this. And, I feel like I just needed that little bit of like inspiration, but that kind of kept us moving forward. We posted a Russell specific video, I think was our third video, with an audio from CatmanJohn. And so that was where the CatmanJohn username came from, because Dylan was like, why don't we just be CatmanJohn?
Yes. So that was one of the questions that a lot of Steve's people had for you. Was, where'd you get the name? Because your name's not John, and none of your cats' names are John, and Dylan's name is not John, so who's John?
Everybody always asks,
what's up with John? Yeah.
I'm just going to name our next cat John, and then it's like, oh, that's why. And then never have to...
Okay.
Yeah.
That is funny.
So I felt like the TikTok was successful, and then I do remember in January 2021, I created the same profile on Instagram, and I was just reposting everything, and my Instagram just flew. It was like right when they introduced Reels, so I was posting all these Reels all the time, and it was really getting big. And then I was like, okay, let's do this on YouTube. So did the same thing on YouTube, and then it took me long enough, but I eventually joined Facebook. So for those wondering, my usernames are the same on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, CatmanJohn, and on Facebook we're actually Russell the Talking Cat, because I had a CatmanJohn page, and then somebody claimed to like own it. It was a whole thing, and I just never.
Do you want to tell people about your recent, the amazing YouTube goal that you hit?
Oh, we just hit 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. I opened the YouTube Studio app yesterday when I was having breakfast, and I was drinking a sip of water, and it was a movie. It was a spit take. I was like, oh my gosh, we did it. And Dylan was right there with me, and I jumped up and, got big hugs. Oh, kitty!
It's Babby. She's
Hi,
our unhinged
Babby.
child, so I'm not sure what she's going to do.
Libby and Russell right behind the camera here. Maybe they'll both, I think they're just both sleeping.
Yeah, fair. It is really high time for cat naps right now, so fair enough. So there's a lot of questions about, like, how has your cat's popularity on social media impacted your life? I mean, we know that you've been able to quit your job, but
I feel so lucky for that. Like, I just, working really hard, and still every single day I still have to continue to reach out to brands and continue to post. Like, if I stopped, I will stop making money and have to find a different job. So it's, obviously what I'm working forward with. The other good part of it is it's not really me on camera, so I don't really have to be like, I feel a little anonymous, and I like that. I'm happy to be on camera certain times and do things like this. It's so much fun, but I feel like the center of the page has always truly been the cats, and I'd rather us just be side characters and Russell and the cats be the main focus. So that's been really nice.
I totally understand that. So what does a typical day look like for you in terms of what you're doing with all of your social media accounts?
So I start by waking up to either Russell or Teen stepping on my face every morning.
Classic cat move.
No, we've been trying some different things. You have the best tips, so we have seriously been trying to use them all. No playing in the bed and feeding before bedtime, and a lot of that has been really helpful. But if somebody scarfs and barfs and they're hungry in the morning because didn't get to stay in, so the occasional morning is a little bit different. But normally I will wake up and immediately spend time with the cat. Sometimes that means going live. Sometimes that means just filming content. The middle of the day during nap time is usually, my work hours when I can sit down and answer emails and edit videos and get things scheduled and posted. And in the evening time when Russell wakes back up is usually playtime. That's when I'll spend the most of my day just like playing and trying out different toys and things. And something I actually didn't mention earlier that I was wanting to mention about enrichment is getting to know what each of my cats like the best has also been really rewarding because Winnie's favorite toy of all time is her laser. And I'm only going to say the word because the door is shut. She's not going to come running, but none of the other cats like it like Winnie does. So when that toy comes out, I know it's like specifically that Winnie will be really excited for it. None of the other cats like Russell's, shaky mice, but that's Russell's toy. So that's also just, I wanted to make sure that I clarified that each cat has their own specific needs that we try to meet. And during our evening playtime, I feel like that's usually when, like, I will literally grab a bunch of mice out, grab a bunch of puppies out and be like, all right, Russell, you go that way, Teen, you go that way, and just start throwing them. Just so that everybody gets, some sort of enrichment.
And I think that's a great tip also for listeners that when you have cats who are young, like most of your cats are pretty on the younger side, is to play with them to exhaustion at night so that they don't bother you throughout the night, right? That's a question I get a lot of times from my clients is, how do I stop my cat from bothering me at night? Or, my cat's meowing. And generally, you want to add a lot of intellectual stimulation, which you've already done, right? And then you want to play with them to exhaustion, which means you're playing with them until the cat does not want to play anymore, right? Because that's what they would do in nature is they would hunt and hunt and hunt and run, and then they would like stop when they can't do it anymore. And so that's a good way to kind of exhaust them so that they don't bother you all night, because at nighttime is when they're going to be out hunting, and that's when their brains tell them to like go, go, go. So you want to tire them out so that they kind of get on your schedule more, which you obviously know all this, but just trying to pepper some little knowledge bits throughout the podcast.
I would just like to clarify that I'm nodding along because Kristiina has given me this information off camera. I did not know this without her help. So thank you, Kristiina.
Stop. You're so welcome. So again, with all the content that you're creating, how do you go about deciding what kind of content you're going to post, and how do you handle Russell's button content, especially? Do you have a camera that's pointing at them all the time? Like, how do you collect that? Like, what's going on?
So the latest that we have going on. So first I'm going to start by saying that we have the three or four different types of buttons right now, but the latest buttons that we have are the Fluent Pet Connect buttons that are Wi-Fi enabled, that they connect. The button press will go to the Fluent Pet app in my phone. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that has already changed everything for me, because if I don't actually realize that Russell's probably in the other room or I'm asleep, people used to ask me, does Russell press buttons in the middle of the night or when you're not around? And I would say no, because I didn't think that he was until I started getting alerts from the Connect buttons that he was pressing them, and I was like, that's really weird. I don't know if you saw this video, but I had a video that it has like over 3 million views on Instagram. Dylan and I went into the bathroom. We were doing like a bleach cleaner, and Russell was in the other room, and he was pressing smell, bubbles, ouch, ouch, bubbles, smell. And it was just, of course, this could have been completely coincidental, but it was one of those moments where it was like, that kind of, the timing of all of that feels a little weird. So we switched to natural chemicals natural products, no more chemicals. And, I'm just going to listen to my cat on that one because he definitely knows better than I do. Yeah. But so I think that has changed things. I have a camera that faces the buttons at all time. We just use like a Ring indoor camera, and it's motion sensor activated. So when Russell or somebody walks in front of the buttons, it'll activate. But I feel like I try to post at least like 3 Russell reels a week, whether that be Russell using his buttons specifically or, Russell just being a cat, because that's also nice to see when the really smart animals are just themselves. It's nice to see as well. And then I feel like I try to post, at least 1 or 2 times a month, like a toy that we're really liking, or some sort of enrichment that would be helpful for others. Even though those aren't the types of content that usually do the best, I still really want to make sure that the community of people that are engaged with our page are still getting something out of the content. We're an entertainment page, of course, first and foremost, but I would still love to be able to pass on tips or knowledge or anything, and just always love to disclaim that I don't have credentials behind that. I just follow what Kristiina does, and then I say that I do them.
Stop! You don't have to have a formal education to be a good cat owner, right? And I think you're a really good cat owner, and you can speak to what your cats enjoy and what work for your cats, right? So you don't have to be, I think if you were going to say, this is what science says, blah, 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 then sure, it's great to have a disclaimer for that. But I think if you're just recommending, hey, this is what our cats like, or this is what I've noticed works in our household, you don't need to be so worried about giving a disclaimer that you're not an official scientist. It's fine.
I think I just don't ever, because of the sensitivity of what we're doing, I just don't want to ever come across that we're claiming to be something that we're not. At the end of the day, associative learning, not English language, just try to be us.
To that end, I was going to wait a little bit till we get into talking about the buttons, but since we've naturally brought it up in the conversation, let's get into all the drama associated with pets using speech buttons. I will say from my end, having had a cat, Steve, who used the buttons, and I taught him the same time that you did during COVID, because I couldn't go to my lab, and I was bored, and I had seen Kristiina Hunger and her cat, Kristiina Hunger and her dog.
Stella.
Wow, me. All animals are not cats. Her very smart dog using them. And I thought, wow, this is so cool, and I brought it up with my PI at school, where in my master's program, and I was like, look, animals are talking. And she was like, girl, they're not talking. This is what's going on. And, really educated me about associative concept training, all the history behind it, all the history behind people trying to communicate, whether it's through hex signs or through sign language or other mediums with animals, and how that has gone, and really what people think the speech buttons are. And again, the science is still out, the jury is still out. Nobody can say with certainty what this is or is not. In my mind, it is associative concept learning. Again, that is what I was kind of vehemently taught that this is, which just means that the cat is associating a certain stimulus or reward with the button push, and it's not learning language, because learning language is so complicated even for us as humans, right? Noticed also when I was doing it with Steve, we would get lots of kind of hate comments on his page, as I'm sure you got as well, for people just being like, this cat isn't talking, this is yours, this is garbage, and blah blah blah. And it was kind of interesting to see how people got so argumentative over something that was supposed to just be entertainment. And so I just want to talk a little bit about, what do you think is going on? How have you handled that kind of stuff? Has that calmed down a little bit as the frenzy that I think was during COVID over button use has chilled out a little bit?
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
So
much.
I think one of the most important things that happened was I met you so early in the button process, and you were able to kind of explain to me the same thing that your PI explained to you, the jury's still out, but, this is a really, really sensitive, complex thing, and, we just don't know. Are humans even smart enough to know? We don't know. So for me personally, it's a lot of fun, and it's really helpful. Russell's anxiety has gone down. All of the cat's anxiety has gone down. He can request needs. He can alert me to the litter box being full. He's usually right about the laundry. There's a number of things that Russell uses the buttons for that seem appropriate in context. So while I would love to say, yes, I believe everything he says and he knows exactly what he's doing, I don't think that's really the reality of the situation. Sometimes he'll just go and randomly press now and then walk away. And I'm like, now what? But he didn't have anything to say. So you know, a lot of the time Russell gets my attention when he uses the buttons. So is that what he's really going for anyway? But you know, there's just the small part of me that just really holds on to the hope that like maybe Russell is, you know, understanding more than we think that they can understand. But there's no part of me that thinks that Russell can speak English. And I definitely used to get comments like that. Yeah, it's usually a viral video. You're reaching broader audiences. You know, definitely when this first thing got started, I definitely feel bad for Alexis Devine. And What About Bunny? I know that she definitely gets like the brunt of the hate when it comes to that kind of stuff, especially because Bunny's famous existential crisis. And, you know, I definitely feel bad about that. But what I'm really grateful for, and if members of my audience are watching this, I'm speaking directly to you. Usually I have people that have my back. And if somebody comments something negative, my you know, crew of people will jump in there and stand up for me. And I'm really, really grateful for that. And it's taken a long time to have, you know, that kind of community and that kind of trust, but I'm very grateful for that. And if I really, really need the expert, I know who to tag. So I'm thankful for you as well, Kristiina, because you have definitely helped with certain rude comments, especially on TikTok.
I mean, people are nuts. You know, what can you do?
Yeah.
But I do have to say that, like, having the communities that I know we both have on social media is so impactful. And I have just been blown away, especially through Steve's illness and his passing, how kind and helpful and amazing these communities of people are. Like, people that we don't know in real life for the most part, and how just generous and loving and supportive that like internet communities can be, right? And I think it's sort of the opposite of what we think when we think about going online. I found so much support and so much love and kindness, and I just, like you said, I could not be more grateful and more overwhelmed at the support that is out there in Steve's little community. And so I'm so glad that you feel the same way.
So lucky. I just, all we try to do, and I'm sure from your perspective as well, is I am just trying to put positivity out and be the person that's just a lighthearted video that you're going to see on the internet. If you're having a bad day, you could just watch a Russell video and it'll probably make you feel better.
Can you tell me about any funny or unexpected reactions you've received from fans of your cat? Like, can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Well, this is kind of a plug for my page, so I hope you don't mind. But
No.
one of the things that I started doing recently is interviewing people that have visited Russell, seen him pressing his buttons in real time, and what the experience was. But one person that really stands out is Dylan's dad was here, and, you know, definitely was skeptical, and, you know, I don't really know what this means. And we had gone to the pet store. I think I should grab pet food, and I was like, oh, let's get him a new toy. Like, that'll be so fun for you guys to bring home to them. And his dad's name is Dave. Dave was playing with Russell with the feather toy, and we sat down at the table to play a card game. And Russell went over to the buttons and pressed no, play feather toy. And Dave was just floored. He was like, we just bought this toy. Like, yeah, it has a feather on it, but like, how is he supposed to know? You know, so it was a very cool moment where, again, the buttons were like contextually appropriate. And it was really funny to see his reaction, because he, for someone that was like a total non-believer, to be like, he just pressed that? And I'm like, yeah,
Right.
I live here every day. This is my reality. Like, you know, it's hard not to just talk to him like a person, because he talks back like a
Sure.
person. So
Yeah. Well, how many buttons does he have now?
the board has 51 buttons, but, you know, the board could have probably 10, because those are like the buttons that he uses regularly.
Right.
But I there's no way that I could give him a word and then take it back. So the button
Sure.
board has like continued to grow and grow and grow, because there's just no part of me that's like, here, I'm going to teach you this word and then like never give it to you again.
Yeah.
So
That's
the
fair.
number of buttons does not correlate to how smart the learner is or the teacher or anything along those lines. I feel like for us specifically, it's just because we've been doing this for almost 4 years.
Yeah. And what are those 10 words that you feel like he uses the most?
Play, inside, outside, kibbles, birdie, let's think. And then he'll usually press like contextually appropriate. He will use names, you know, from what I've seen on, you know,
Right.
in person, you know, on camera even too sometimes. But he loves his mama button, and I do too. let's think. And then Mousy, Feather Toy. It's a lot of toys, but he'll use like laundry and litter when it's, contextually appropriate. Snuggle, he'll use to like, he knows that snuggle, I don't even know what he thinks snuggle means, but he knows that means mom is going to be like so happy and willing to do anything. Yeah, I mean, I totally lost track of how many buttons I just said, but
it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Okay.
just for the purposes of, what we're getting across here, it's just not, Russell's not over there like, yes, Mom, I would like to eat dinner at 7 p.m. Like, that's not what's happening. Russell randomly walked up and pressed kibbles, and then I'm like, Russ, you have kibbles. Calm down. So.
Well, I think we all know that cats really don't like a bowl that's not completely full of, especially of dry food, which we call crunchies in the house. We have mushies and crunchies in our house.
Love.
And they definitely don't like it if the crunchy volume is too low. So maybe he just feels that you need more kibbles. Oh, excuse me.
Oh,
Hi,
Mimi?
there's Mimi. It's Mimi.
Oh,
yeah.
Mimi. Hi, beautiful lady. Thank you.
Just had to,
I love
She had
Mimi.
to pass through and show everyone her beautiful butthole.
I actually remember seeing on TikTok somebody was like, print out a picture of the kibbles and tape it to the bottom of the bowl. I mean, I'd love to know what you think about that, if that's like cruel or if that's a good idea.
I don't think it's cruel. I do know that cats don't have amazing vision, especially when it comes to being up close. So I don't know that they're going to see that and think, oh, those are more kibbles. However, if you're using a bowl that is a different color from the kibbles / crunchies, I guess it could just blend in with the color. So if you're using like a stainless steel bowl and the crunchies are brown, it could make them think, is that Kitchen Man? Somebody's yelling. Anyway, it could make them think that, that the bowl isn't empty if they don't see that space that they're used to. But I don't think they're going to see it and be like, oh, those are additional crunchies. Let me, But maybe that's something for you to try and let us know how it goes. Is there anything of Russell that like you won't share, or of your cats, like moments that you don't want to share with people? Like, I know of course you want to keep everything positive, but is there stuff that's off limits to you? Like, how do you go about deciding what to share and what not to share?
So I think I have just like recently come to the realization that I would love to put this giant disclaimer on anyone that really wants to get invested with their cat using buttons, that it has become very clear to me that Russell is almost like a child. Like it feels like for the last 4 years I've had like a 2-year-old. He interrupts me on the phone, and he'll interrupt me during Zoom meetings and stuff. So as I would never take them away, and I would never take back doing the buttons, I think I would be really wary about starting this journey with another cat in the future, or anything like that, because it's time consuming, it's life consuming. I obviously quit my job to do this. It's not all rainbows and sunshine and happiness, because it's a lot of requests, a lot of time. Sometimes I just want to relax, and sometimes he doesn't want to relax either, and we don't match up. In those moments, in those moments, I do actually love to like set up an enrichment toy where he can do something himself and stay entertained. Just because I just need a break sometimes. So I think that when it comes to like posting on social media and stuff too, though, I try to be extremely honest. So I don't cut clips. I try to have it all one fluid thing. I'll do a disclaimer with a fast forward button on there, just because I want people to understand that this isn't just like me clipping. It could, of course, be very easy to clip together what it looks like Russell would be saying, but that's not something that I feel comfortable with. I don't want anybody to feel like they're being duped when they come and watch my videos. So,
of course.
In terms of like what I don't post, also sometimes, again, like I said earlier, Russell will just post the now button and walk away.
Yeah.
Who would find that interesting? I'm not going to post it if people don't find it interesting. So, at the end of the day, I'm trying to grow my channel. I'm trying to get people to engage with my videos and my photos and things like that. So I'm going to post highly engaging content to the best of my ability.
Right. So that leads into another thing that, like, I could speak to this with Steve's button use, of how much of Russell's button pressing does result in something that is coherent versus how much of it is just him, like you said, wanting attention.
So I really want to try to like really think and give an honest answer, because I want to say that like maybe 75% of the time it it's contextually appropriate, it makes sense. There's an action. He asked for something specific, kibbles, wet food, play, feather toy, whatever. But sometimes he'll go over and it's just, like I would say about a quarter of the time, like he just goes over with what seems like no intention, but maybe he's frustrated. Maybe he wants something that he doesn't have a button for, or maybe he's just full of energy and doesn't know what to do with it. So, I think that, I think that I would probably say about like 75-25 for appropriate, contextually appropriate / kind of random.
Oh, and I think I would say probably with Steve and his button use, it was probably about the same. And a lot of times when he was having hissy fits, he would run over his buttons and like mash them, and it didn't mean anything. He was just like super pumped, and he wanted to like add into him running around being crazy some like noise.
Yes.
Or just get our attention to be like, look what I'm doing, blah, But generally, he only walked over to them and used them if there was a purpose. But he had so many less than most button users do. So it's not like he had like a huge choice of stuff he could just hit. He only had like 9 buttons. So. So do you have any advice for people who want to create a social media / like online presence for their pets? But do you have any advice for people who may want to get into doing this?
I would say first piece of advice is know what you're getting into and know how much work it is, because it's really not just like, oh, I'll throw up a video like once every couple weeks or something, and then that'll just make my page grow. This is like a daily checking in, being really engaging with your page and following and stuff. So first off, just make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. My second piece of advice would be like, you've committed, you're in, you really want to do it, possibly can. My broader niche is cats, but I get really niche down into cats that use buttons. So people that are really interested in cats that are using buttons. I could even say use cats that use buttons in a multi-cat household is like as how I found you, obviously. So just really trying to make sure that you're finding an audience that is going to be engaged with your content and then sticking with it. Don't niche down and post button videos and then randomly do a get ready with me and do your hair in the mirror. Like maybe today, 4 years later, my followers would be interested, but I guarantee they wouldn't because they don't follow me for beauty tips.
Do it. I want to see it.
I don't know how to do my hair. Jeez, can you tell? I'm just letting it air dry. And let's think. So try to think of like another good piece of advice for... Okay, so I think the third thing that I would say is just being like really consistent. Mm-hmm. So if you want to post every single week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the algorithm is going to like that because you're consistent for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But don't post Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the rest of the year alternating. I mean, if you alternate weeks, maybe it would work. But I think just being really consistent is what's really important. Mm-hmm. And just making sure that you are not posting and ghosting. Don't just, jump on in social media and post and then never look at it, never interact with people. Make sure to, engage with your audience and answer questions and pin comments and, pin a question and answer with, a new video if you have a question. So I think those are like the 3 major things that I can think of to be really helpful. But, my DMs are always open if people ever have any questions. I'm always happy to answer on Instagram.
I do think that's a big part of how you've grown so quickly is being so personable. I can talk, but also like really engaging with people on that personal level, right? And letting people know who you are authentically and getting back to people. And you're so good at also connecting with other creators, right? Not only that, like, are we friends, but you are friends with so many other creators and so many other people, animal button use world and like, and the other animal, just general animal world. And I think that's something also that you could speak to maybe a little bit.
A very, very important piece of advice that I got when I was first starting out as a creator is collaboration, not competition.
Yes.
There is enough money in this world. Everybody can get a slice of the pie. I have gotten brand deals because other creators have previously worked with them. They recommended me. I'm pretty sure actually, was I the one that connected you to Little Robot? I think I vaguely remember sending
I think you did.
A coupon, but I mean, so collaboration is everything. Work together on trends, collaborate on an Instagram post. I think that like something that personally matters to me so much is community, and staying connected with like my friends and family is something that matters a lot. especially now that I work from home and I am literally the definition of a cat lady. I just stay at home with my cats all day long. But I think that's also what's been really fun and important too, and has helped me create really awesome friendships. So, obviously, for those of you guys that are watching, Kristiina and I have become good friends over the last few years. And I have a friend who filmed our wedding, and then I just visited her in Canada. So I just, connecting with really awesome people has been a really interesting corner of the internet that I never thought that I would say. Like, I meet strangers on the internet sometimes, but after years of making sure these people are legit and meeting in public places for the first time and so on and so forth. So
I think I just came to your house.
You did. Now that I've thought about that,
in a public place. I just came to your house and was like, hey.
But you and I both show so much of our interior space on social media that I think it was like, okay, you know what? I can, I know where she lives. She knows where I live.
Yes.
I think, but I'm pretty sure I met other people like.
No, and that's a smart thing to do. I could have been whoever.
Jeez Louise. Thanks for not being whoever. Thanks for being normal and not murdering me and my cats.
I mean, normal is, who knows, but the jury's still out on that one. But
yeah, I don't know if nothing's normal.
How has the use of speech buttons impacted your relationship with Russell? Like, have you noticed it has improved your relationship, which is kind of something I would assume. Like, can you speak a little bit to that?
I would love to. Our relationship has just vastly improved. I feel so close to him. I feel like, even if it wasn't the buttons, if Russell and I did anything together like that, if I was training him to do tricks, it has definitely brought me closer to him, and I feel very grateful for that. But it's also brought me closer to all the other cats, because as I realize, like, Russell has specific needs and wants, I'm like, all of the other cats have specific needs and wants. So it's been really interesting, and I'm so grateful for the buttons, because his life is so much better with them than it was without them. And, obviously I'm the driver of giving him those buttons, so I pat myself on the back. But I think that he is definitely living an enriched, happy life, and that's all that I could ask for. And I think that's translating to the other cats as well, which is just so wonderful.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that above all things, like cats, they need to be intellectually and environmentally stimulated, but they also really need attention from us. And I think people often think like, oh, cats are solitary, they're not like dogs. They don't need a lot of attention from us, but they really do. They really need attention and love and support and care. And I think the buttons are a great way, even if you want to say, I don't believe in all the buttons, that's totally fine. I think they're a great way for people to spend more time with their cats, for people to pay more attention to their cats' wants and needs, right? And then the buttons led you to be able to be a stay-at-home cat mom, which is even better for your cats, right? I'm sure your cats are even happier now that you're not at work for most of the day, that you're at home working, and that leads them to become even more enriched and happier. So I think, like, look at everything that the buttons have provided, regardless of if people want to believe in them or not. I think they've really provided a lot of stimulation and just kind of general overall well-being for your whole family.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think that, like, sometimes I want to say that the buttons have improved, like, my communication and Dylan's communication, just because, Russell speaks his needs, and I'm like, maybe we should all listen to Russell. Maybe we should all speak our needs. Maybe we should let somebody know when something's bothering us. If the smell is too smelly or the TV is too loud. Russell loves to press his noise button when the TV is too loud. And that's an adjustment that I've made for him, because I'm like, why is it blasting? I don't need it to be blasting here. So I think that the buttons have significantly helped. Russell will also press buttons on behalf of the other cats. He will press the LASER button for Winnie, and she will come out for it. He will press the brush button, and she will come out for it. He will press the puffy button, and all of a sudden Teen's right there. So that's been really interesting as well, to see the other cats' reactions to, obviously, the association.
Right. So they all understand the words. They're just not pressing the buttons, which is something that happened in our house with Steve, is that everyone in our house understood the meanings. Like, if I pushed, I'm not going to say it either, PLAY, everyone would come running, even though Steve had pushed it, because they knew that association, right?
Yeah.
Even to the point where now I can't say it, because they'll all be like, "Oh, we're gonna do it," right? So that's what's happening in your house?
Totally. It's like
Yeah.
kids. Like I remember, 12 years older than my youngest brother, so I remember a lot of parenting going on in my house, and the spelling of words is definitely like it feels so similar because I'm like, oh my gosh, we have kids here. It's what it feels like
Yes.
sometimes. But then, oh my God, it's a million times easier than kids. So
Yeah. Fair. Somebody wanted to know if there are any limitations or challenges in using speech buttons with Russell.
the biggest challenge was just teaching him how to physically press the button. And then as soon as he figured it out, he was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. He was like, this gets me things, I'm going to be good with this.
Right.
Adding new buttons, I have noticed also has the window of time for him to like kind of understand it has definitely closed and shortened.
Sure.
And he basically, if I put a button down and give him whatever it says on the button instantly, that's it for him. He's like, okay, I know what it seems like it just happens really quickly now.
Yeah, sure. I think that's normal that after the first button, it can take quite a while for some learners to learn that first button, but then when you see it, you see that moment where they make the association between the button and getting something, and then I feel like subsequent buttons are so much faster, I think, generally among all users, because now they've made that association that, oh, the button gets me some type of reward, whether it's going outside or food, are also going to get me a thing that it represents. But that's also why most people advise to not start with a food word, right? Because then cats may associate all further buttons with food. So what was the first word that you guys started with? I don't remember.
If you watch back to like the original day one teaching my cat to press buttons that I have, the word is pets, because I was like, I can physically pet him. He can understand what this is. I wasn't really sure how to like, it was like, Russell loves to get pet. This is perfect. And then like, I think 3 or 4 days in, I was like, why don't we try play? And then that was how he learned. He was like, yes, I totally understand this. Yes, I want to play. I remember looking up on YouTube, like teaching a cat to press a button. And I had to go all the way down to find it. It was this niche video of this woman teaching a little cat with a clicker how to, press the button. And that's all was all I needed. I was like, okay, got it. I can do this. And then, did the same thing with Russell, and it was like really cool. And it was fun for me to watch the connection and the light bulbs happen, because, Russell would look at the button and then I would click, and then Russell would be like, okay, something about that button. And then he would go over and smell the button, and then I'd click, and then he would press the button, touch the button, and I'd see him using his brain, and I could see the wheels are always spinning, and him and Win are very smart. I could always see them but we always say Win's just like doing research and she's got a long thesis coming up. And he just came jogging in. Come on. Let's say hi. Wait, don't scream.
Hi, it's me. You don't like me.
Oh, you love her smells, babe. She's got really nice shoes, and you love them. So handsome.
Hi, buddy. You're so cute.
So handsome.
Hello. He's like,
Thanks,
I've got
love.
stuff to do.
Yeah. Oh, he came running in here. I think
don't
he
wanna
was
be
like,
on this
it has
podcast."
been an hour.
Yeah, excuse me. Okay, I just have 2 more questions from followers. They want to know how you taught words like litter and clean.
Okay. Litter was one of I feel like one of the earlier buttons, so I'll start with that one. Litter, what I tried to help Russell associate litter with was us going to the room that the litter box was in, and then I would just continuously verbalize litter as I'm cleaning up the litter box, as I'm sweeping it up, as I'm emptying it out and spinning it. So I have literally no idea what Russell thinks litter means, but when he presses the litter button, I still get up and go to check on the litter boxes.
Right.
So
it could be the room, it could be who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? This is what I mean when I say it's contextually appropriate, because the litter box is full, but I don't know what he means by that.
Yeah.
And then cleanup is just, for those that don't know, Russell and Teen were saved from a hoarder's home as kittens and connected through a local shelter to Petco, and then that's how we adopted them. But, cats are just very clean in general, and Russell tends to get really stressed if the space is messy. Russell would just get really bothered, and he would get stressed, and he would meow a lot, clearly somebody needed to follow him. He would lead me to maybe a hairball or a spot of throw up or something, and I was like, why don't I just give him a cleanup button? And so I gave him the cleanup button, and I'd be like, Russell, can you lead me to what you're talking about? He led me to the back door. One time that was a really interesting one, because I didn't realize somebody had thrown up on or pooped on a mat outside of the litter box. I think it was throw up. And Dylan had put it outside before work because he just didn't have the time to take care of it. So Russell was like, clean up incessantly, and led me to the back door. And I was like, oh, yeah, there's a mat outside that's not supposed to be there with throw up on it. So, again, I don't know what cleanup means to him. What I've tried to teach him is just I am physically removing something that shouldn't be.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, I'm not in his brain, so.
Yeah. And then also, how do you feel about having a clean freak cat? And what all does he harass you to clean?
People are asking me all the time, they're like, is Russell a Virgo, da-da-da, and I'm like, Russell's not, but I am. So
Yeah.
I like cleanliness, and I like to be clean, and it doesn't really bother me, because I'm like, you're right, it should be cleaner in here, and, it's obviously, if I just want to sit on the couch and not clean up I want to let the throw up dry, because it's so much easier to clean up dry, I just have to kind of talk him through and just be like, Russ, I'm just going to leave that for a little bit and let it be. So I feel like I have worked my way into boundaries. Giving Russell the no button was a big part of like setting up boundaries, because I was like, I don't need to be answering all of these requests all the time at the drop of a hat. Or later helps too, but Russell now uses it against me for, if I'm on a call for too long, or if we're watching something, I will sit down to eat and Russell will say later, and then he'll say, play something. I'm like, Russ, I know you want me to eat later, but I'm going to eat right now.
So we can wrap up, and I want to thank you again, Hannah, so much for being my guest on Hiss and Tell, and thank Russell for popping in a couple times to show us his handsome face. Hi,
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for watching. Hiss and Tell is a subsidiary of my cat behavior business, Catitude Adjustment, and that's our channel name on YouTube, which is where you've watched this video most likely. If you'd like to engage my services as a cat behaviorist, you can find me at catitude-adjustment.com. Music is generously provided by Cat Beats.